Move it, body, body, move it, baby. Move it, body.
Boom, we're live. Welcome to RugbyPass Fan Zone Lions Edition, live with myself, Jim Hamilton, and Stevie Ferris. No, I've not rubbed anything in my eyes, but I am slightly worse for wear. Dusty is what we should say. Dusty Stevie, it's not coming home. Let's just get the formalities out of the way because people could be watching this from their beds, not their offices. Did you watch football last night, Stevie?
I did, yes. Called down to a friend's house. Watched the football. Very exciting. It was good. I was hoping that it was going to go to penalties just for everybody to get a bit more out of the game. But unfortunately, it didn't go the way of the English. Feel sorry for the three lads like missing the penalties. I'm a Manchester United fan, so seeing Marcus Rashford and United's big signing for next year, Jadon Sancho, miss the penalties wasn't particularly nice, but that's the way it goes. Big moments. I think, I don't know about you, Jim, but like I would find it pretty tough to come on for 20 or 30 seconds of a game and then have another 10-minute break and then having to step up and kick a penalty. I thought maybe Mr. Southgate should have got them on a little bit earlier, but hey ho, it's in the past. Well done, Italy. Congratulations to them.
I am mentally weak. I would be the guy that would miss the penalty every time. Do you know what I mean? Like, as in Harry Kane absolutely drilled his wire as well. I would be one of them blokes that is like, it's going over the bar. Like, I'm backing myself. I look confident, but I'm blasting it over the bar. Stevie, one thing that I think we've seen over the last couple of weeks, take aside the carnage at Leicester Square and some of the other stuff that's gone viral on social media about guys taking the piss, really, mainly guys. I've not seen any women. Let's just say it is the blokes. But the power of sport and bringing people together. And I suppose this will piggyback our conversation around how this Lions tour is going to unfold and what the appetite is for it. We're obviously in amongst it. We're talking about it. We love rugby, but just the power of sport bringing people together. And the Euros is a perfect example of that. Wimbledon was on yesterday, but these big sporting events that we're starting to see with fans and, you know, me having mates around the house, you going over to mates, it's what it's about, right? This is what sport and life is about.
Yeah, it certainly is, Jim. And I think the way the Euros has went along, the crowds have been getting bigger and bigger. Obviously, last night it was a huge crowd at Wembley Stadium. I know there was a bit of trouble, people trying to break in and everything else, but the vast majority of people were sticking by the rules and regulations and enjoying the game. And just to go back to the Lions, Jim, it feels like it's almost going the other way. It feels like the Lions are starting to separate the rugby community and separate the rugby fans because there's so many people now saying that it shouldn't be going ahead and it's too dangerous. And you look at, I know we're going to touch on it here with the COVID cases now within the South African squad. And there's so many varying opinions where here in the UK, it seems to be we are a lot further down the line. We're not out of the woods by any stretch of the imagination, of course we're not, but it just feels that the rugby fraternity was coming together, but the rugby fraternity seems to be a little bit fractured. And that's because of some of the media that's been, or some of the information that's been coming out and put into the local media in South Africa around the South African camp, around the British and Irish Lions camp. And you know, it's troublesome moving forward, and we're all hoping that this tour gets finished and it ends like the Euros did, and we all have a big finale, and it's one each after the first two tests, and then we go head to head, and it's amazing, and we get a brilliant 3-test series. But at the minute, Jim, that's not looking likely, and as the weeks, minutes, hours, and days and weeks go on, it seems even more unlikely. So. Yeah, you're right though, Jim. It is bringing people together. However, on the flip side, I feel like the rugby side of things, it's making it a little bit more fractured.
Yeah, well, let's have a look at the rugby side of things. The team's just been announced for the game against the Springboks. I wasn't sure whether they were going to play in this game on Wednesday. We'll maybe talk about this after, Stevie, but I think the headlines in that is that it looks like a very, very strong squad. Chris Harris is playing 13. Obviously, Anthony Watson was brilliant at 15. Conor Murray, we're going to see him start as captain from scrum half. Marrow's back from being sick with Ian Henderson. We're going to see Tom Curry again. Well, you can see the team. We can go through it a little bit after. I want to talk about the game at the weekend against the Sharks first, Stevie. They struggled a little bit in the first half, didn't they? 26 all. It obviously finished 31 points to 30, 71 points to 31. But it was a proper match, wasn't it? Up until 46 minutes, Jaden Hendrickson got sent off for a ridiculous cheap shot to Liam Williams. And I tweeted about it saying crazy red card. Not crazy as in it shouldn't have been a red card, as in what's he doing? The Sharks looked really up for it. The Lions took, they looked taken aback a little bit with the physicality. And it's tough. We've been there before in games. You're not really sure if the game's going to go ahead. The Sharks double up again. And we looked a little bit shell-shocked at times in terms of the physicality. The Sharks obviously were pissed off with the way the first game went. But they looked strong, didn't they? The Lions, to be fair, the positives out of that is it was a proper test match, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I think that was always going to be the case, that they would put it up to the Lions for a certain period of time. I know that the red card to Hendricks probably was the final nail in the coffin for them. However, the physicality that they showed, the Springboks themselves will take a lot out of the first half. 26 all going in at the break. I was fine working for Ireland versus USA game, so I didn't get to see it live. But keeping up to date, and it almost felt like as soon as the Lions got their noses in front, that they would keep pushing on, and that's exactly the way it finished out. The Sharks, they ran out of steam. That's their second game in 4 days. They weren't able to make a raft of changes like the Lions. I know they made a few. But there's a couple of guys backing up 4 days later. So, fair play to them. I think they really dug in there well, and to score 31 points, be in the game for large periods of it as well. They can be very proud of that. And just on the red card, I was reading a few news articles this morning just in line for this. And, the Sharks head coach was just saying he learned from it. It's just red mist, come over, stupid, 100% a red card, and to move on. So, and he was playing bloody well too. He was playing really, really well. He was one of the better players on the pitch for the Sharks. So, yeah. Look,
he got the intercept, didn't he, Stevie?
What's that?
He got the intercept, didn't he, as well? Like for the I think Gareth Davis loop over ball. I think he got the intercept for that as well. He was looking sharp.
Yeah, he was looking really sharp. And I played golf with Big Nick Easter there last week, and he was telling me about the Sharks. And he was telling me to look out for this nine. And yeah, he's a quality player. But yeah, he just let himself down, I think, a little bit, just with the action that leading with the forearm. I know Liam Williams can be a bit of a nightmare and getting niggly and getting into people's spaces and rubbing them up the wrong way. But there's no call for that whatsoever, Jim. And a red card and 71 points to 31. The scoreline didn't reflect the way that, especially the first 50 minutes went. But fair play to the Lions. They put them to the sword once again, didn't they?
Yeah, can we take anything out of the game? And again, it's really interesting because all I'm taking out of it is when the backs that are standing out. It's really hard to judge how a pack of forwards are going, how the scrum and the line out, where they're obviously going to be comfortable in their areas. But the headlines out of the games was around Duan van der Merwe, former Springbok under-20s player playing against some of his mates, or they're probably still mates. They would have been foes when they were playing the game. Anthony Watson, I thought, looked brilliant. Elliot Daly, bar the kind of drop pass, he looked for the offload. It didn't look great on him, but he played really well at 13. Chris Harris looked good at 12. When we're looking at that, Stevie, are you seeing anything where you're like, right, Duan van der Merwe has played well every single game, not just in scoring tries, but his ability to step and beat defenders in traffic? Anthony Watson with Liam Williams and Lewis Rusamet and Josh Adams playing so well. Can Elliot Daly play 13? Can Chris Harris play 12 ahead of Bundy Aki? It's interesting looking at that squad that's been picked, because at some point, Gats is going to need to start looking at formations going forward to the test matches. It looks now like we're starting to potentially see who he's thinking in these certain positions. But from that game against the Sharks, or the two games against Sharks, is anyone standing out now? Again, if we look at the backs, let's not talk about the forwards. Maybe we can talk about the forwards after the game against South Africa A, where hopefully they'll be a little bit more physical up there. But Duan van der Merwe, what are we thinking? Anthony Watson, Daly, Harris, have these lads got a real chance, or are we maybe overlooking some of the guys that we think is definitely going to be putting in there with the experience?
Yeah, I think Anthony Watson looks super sharp. Just his ability to change direction when he's running at high speed. Phenomenal player. Got his chance there. He's playing fullback against South Africa A. I think Duhan van der Merwe, he was exposed a couple of times against Japan, rewinding the clock back. Somebody like Cheslin Colby with electric feet, he'd be able to step him on the inside. He's a huge man. He can't just turn and go that quickly. But I tell you what, to have somebody of that size on the wing who can finish off tries very, very easily, it's hard not to leave him out. And then you've got Josh Adams. There was a few question marks over Reece Samet. Was he injured? We know he went off early in the last game. He now finds himself starting against South Africa A. People are calling on him just because of his sheer speed, Jim. And you and I have played with wingers. There is no substitute for gas. And having somebody like that just fills you full of confidence, even if there is a half-line break from the opposition. That somebody like Reece Samet can turn and get there in the defensive line. It's not just all about gassing somebody on the outside. So, yeah, there's so many question marks. I think it's interesting to see the combinations for this game. Conor Murray at 9 and Dan Biggar at 10 get into this game. You also look at the back row over the last couple of games. I thought Mike Byrne, scored a couple of tries against the Sharks there. He's not starting this one. Has he done enough to start? I'm not too sure. I think the one for me, which I'd love to ask you about, Jim, is the second row partnership. Mara Toji and Ian Henderson. A lot of people here, I know, with their green tinted glasses on from an Irish perspective, would love to see Ian Henderson start the first test. But is this the strongest second row partnership in your opinion?
I think so. I think they need to look at this and see how the lineout's going to evolve. Johnny Hill, I thought, looked good in stages against Sharks, but Ian Henderson's a proven player, isn't he? Steve, you know him well. He's a proven test match player. The physicality that he brings, obviously Marrow's definitely locked in. I think that then that opens up the sixth position for a Ty Burton or a Courtney Laws. It's hard to call between them two. Will he go with Courtney Laws with the experience? He's played well every game. Ty Burton has looked brilliant. In most parts of the game, he's done a couple of silly things in terms of offload and kind of floating in and out of the game. But I think having them two, Henderson brings that kind of old school physicality, the darkness of the game, opens up a position to have a kind of second row, back row at that 6 and make the pack a little bit bigger for the line-out and stuff. So it'd be interesting to see how Marrow and Hendo go. You think in the South Africa A team, be better in the line-out and around the set piece and what they faced against the Sharks, with no disrespect. And I suppose that brings us on to the headline, Stevie, around the COVID cases in the Springbok camp. 20 plus cases amongst the players and the coaches. The headline being Siya Kolisi, because he's the captain, because we're less than 2 weeks now away from the first test. We know the South African team are back training without their coach, but Rassie Erasmus, who has been their coach and obviously is a phenomenal coach, has stepped up as some of the coaching staff are self-isolating as well. You've got a feel for this Springbok team, haven't you, in the lead-up? The game against Georgia was cancelled. It doesn't look like they're going to get another game in before they play the Lions. How would you feel being in that Springbok side in terms of preparation, having only played one game against Georgia? You've not trained. You've got a test match in 12 days. What do you think?
Yeah. Jim, I'm sure some of the people listening in, a couple of the people that have got COVID is, obviously the captain, Kolisi. You've got the hooker, Mbonambi, who has been starting ahead of Malcolm Marks, started the World Cup final, unbelievable hooker at the back of mauls, serious scrummager. He's got it as well. Tight head prop, one of the best tight heads in the world, Malherbe. So he's, could be a big loss. Yager in the second row. You've Pollard at out half. Makazola Mapimpi on the wing. World Cup try scorer as well. Hasn't played that much rugby in the Rainbow Cup for the club side. And then you have a whole load of a raft of guys who are on the fringes. Smith, Boy, a few others in there also. Lost some of the management squad. So it's crazy, Jim. And it almost feels like I suppose a few of the guys that are playing for South Africa, I just don't know. I can't get my head around it. Who to blame, who not to blame. What's your opinion on it, Jim? Is it all turning into a bit of a farce? I know we've said about it over the last couple of weeks, but is it getting even worse at this stage?
I just can't work it out. I look at the football, right? And obviously all the Euro games have gone ahead and they're in these bubbles. And I'm thinking maybe we are going to see a conclusion. Maybe everything's going to be okay. And again, because I'm not a virologist or a doctor, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, I'm trying to work out why it's so bad in South Africa and why we're now seeing breaches into the bubble and COVID cases. We know that Gregor Townsend, whether or not it's been confirmed, but he's not been at the matches. So they are still quite tight. It looks like, they managed to get on top of it, bar Gregor Townsend, obviously, and it was a false positive to whoever the player was. We don't know. They've kept it quite tight-lipped. But for whatever reason, through this South Africa team, it just seems to have gone through like wildfire, which we know from the COVID stance that it does. It's a really difficult one, isn't it? We're trying to second guess now what's going to happen. We're trying to second guess.
Yeah, but just on that, Jim, so it's getting to this stage now where Lions fans and media are almost like blaming South Africa for the way the tour is at the minute. So, because they have over 20 cases, like it was the Lions who were getting a lot of blame because they had a couple of positive cases. Now that's all been resolved and settled, and boys have been in isolation and they're back out of the other end of it. And now because there's 20 odd COVID outbreaks, so South Africans, fingers being pointed at them and saying, this isn't good enough. You're the ones that are putting this tour into jeopardy. Where I don't think it is that. I just think it's, overall, it's painting a very bad picture for this specific Lions tour. I'm sure everybody is trying their very, very best to try and get this tour to go ahead. But sometimes your hands are tied. And if there's 20 odd COVID outbreaks, Jim, your hands are tied until those resolve themselves. So, yeah, it's very disappointing. I think everybody shouldn't just be pointing the fingers at this moment in time at South Africa just because they're the ones with the most COVID outbreaks.
Well, if we think it's chaotic, imagine being in the Lions camp, imagine being Warren Gatland and having to deal with it all. This is what he had to say.
Hi, Warren. Are you guys any closer to knowing who your next opponents will be?
No.
And on that, do you even know what day the game might be?
I'm pretty sure it's going to be Wednesday, and I think there's a good chance that they'll switch the Stormers and South Africa A game around. So, but nothing's been confirmed yet.
Are you disappointed that you don't know, or is it just the way that this tour's gone, and you just have to?
Just got to roll with the punches, really, and sort of. We had a challenging day last Wednesday, and then Maro had a bit of a tummy bug last night, and then we had to make a late change as well in the backs and bring in Bundy in too. So those sort of things happen, but the guys have been dealing with it fantastically, and so we just got to go with the flow and react to whatever's thrown at us.
I suppose the lucky thing for the Lions is that you've got someone like Warren Gatland, his experience on tours. Imagine having a new head coach for the British and Irish Lions tour to South Africa. I suppose we're lucky that we've got Gats at the helm. I know he's seen it all, he's not seen this. What do you think he's thinking for the test matches going ahead? Do you think he is just rolling with the punches? At some point he's going to have test match head on. Right, the game's happening. These are the teams that we're putting together, and this is how it's going to roll. Do you think he's at that point yet, or do you think he's still waiting to see how things unfold? Do you think he looks stressed?
Yeah.
Not that you can judge a man over Zoom or whatever, but it must be a stressful situation, not just to deal with his players and his bubble, but to try and have a credible match where the lads are going to get tested and you're going to get to see these combinations under stress to then be able to pick your best team to play against the Springboks in less than 2 weeks.
But Jimmy, he just looks so deflated. Like he looked, as you rightly say, very stressed out. It's not ideal, and something that jumped out at me there was go with the flow. So this tour for the head coach of the British and Irish Lions is just going with the flow. And I think that is a huge negative going into a test match series against South Africa in their own backyard with COVID absolutely all over the place. And you're just going, tell you what, we'll just go with the flow. But he's no other options. Like, this is the thing. He's no other options. And I'd love to see Warren Gatland come out and say, look, we're doing this, that, and the other. We've got this plan in place. And, this is the combinations we're going with this week because the test team's starting to take shape. That's all out the window. It's just crazy. So he's a smart man. We know that. He's good at picking sides and sides that win big games. So, yeah, we got to have faith in him. And I know he is going with the flow at the minute, but I can totally understand why.
Absolutely. Well, a negative into a positive now. Finn Russell has got an Achilles issue. Now, we know as players that they're gnarly, having Achilles issues if he's got a slight tear, which Kat said, which has opened the door for Marcus Smith. Now, I was watching the game, England versus Canada team run at the weekend, and as he got called up, we heard around Finn Russell's injury, which is really unfortunate for him. I know we're both big fans of Finn Russell. He was in for a shout for the test match. We've also mentioned around this guy, Marcus Smith, and I've spoken about having spoken to Warren Gatland, probably off the record, but I'm happy to share it, about how much he rates this guy. I mean, he's been phenomenal for Harlequins. He's not had a look in the England squad until recently, obviously on the summer tour. Gets called up, gets called off the pitch at the weekend. I don't know if you saw it, Stevie, him being told by the England team manager, the great back row, Richard Hill, takes him into the tunnel and says, mate, you've been called up, and you can see that raw emotion. We obviously feel for Finn Russell, it's a massive opportunity for Marcus Smith. Just have a listen to this interview. He kind of talks about his raw emotion.
Yeah, hi Will. I'm lost for words really. I can't believe what's sort of going on. First of all, I'm massively delighted with a win today. To play for England for the second time was special, and it's a day I'll never forget. And then the boys that I spent it with the last couple of weeks, I've enjoyed every minute in camp. I've enjoyed training. I've enjoyed pushing each other in the gym. I've enjoyed everything about it. And to finish with this performance today was special. And it's a special group of boys. And then when I got pulled down the tunnel, I thought I was in trouble, and I was pulled in the tunnel pretty sharpish, and Charlotte and Richard Hill gave me the good news, and I didn't really know what to say. I was shaking. I had to ask her if she was having me on or something, but it was special, and I don't really know what to say. Yeah, I did have a ticket for the football, which would have been good. I still feel it's going to come home, which is nice, and hopefully when I land, I'll see the great news.
Unfortunately, Marcus, I don't know if you've landed yet, but it's not great news. But it is great news for him. It happens on tour, Steve, the injuries. We know that, Finn won't be the last player. We know that he's not completely out yet. He's coming for injury cover, like Border Scott, as mentioned there. Can Finn Russell come back will be the question. It's a great opportunity for Marcus Smith. What do you take out of him being called up now? From an Irish perspective, Johnny Sexton, obviously, he's being rested. What's his conditioning like? Marcus Smith's come off the back of an unbelievable championship winning season for Quins. He's taken that mantle for fly half for England, albeit against poor opposition. Loving life. What do you take of Marcus Smith being called up and next off the rank?
Yeah, I think it's brilliant, and you know what? It gives a lot of other younger guys out there who have aspirations of playing for the British and Irish Lions in the future a lot of hope that even with only a couple of caps to your name for your country, that you can make the next step. And for me, it's a bit more of a like for like replacement. He plays a little bit more like Finn Russell compared to the likes of Johnny Sexton. We know Johnny Sexton hasn't played that much rugby over the last couple of months. I think he was over at the cricket at the weekend and relaxing, where Marcus Smith has been playing international rugby. He was in the Gallagher Premiership final, played extremely well in that, got the win over Exeter, and he's just kept that ball rolling. And I think he thoroughly deserves it. The way he brings the ball to the line, his kicking game his acceleration off the mark. I know anybody that's played with him or against him, rates him very, very highly. I don't know him at all, so I can't comment on that. But anything that he's done on the pitch, in the white jersey of England or the jersey of Quins, he's been truly outstanding. So, yeah, fair play to him, and we wish him all the very best. And unfortunately for Finn Russell, if it is a little bit of a tear of your Achilles, like that's a tour over, I think you can't be taking any risks with that. And I'm sure his club side won't want that either. He's a big player, and we wish him a speedy recovery also. But yeah, fair play to Marcus Smith, and I'm really excited to see what he can bring and how much game time he's actually going to get, Jim.
Exactly, and there's whispers of Ronan Kelleher being potentially called. He obviously came in to fill in when Luke Cowan-Dickey was playing for Exeter. It's not confirmed, but after their team run against the US and him scoring 4 tries, which was great for him, big fan of his as well. So we'll watch this space. Stevie, let's move on then to the predictions for the weekend, or the game on Wednesday. We don't know if there's a game at the weekend. What are you wanting to see? What do you think Gatland wants to see? If we have a look at this squad, who do you think are the headlines that need to really have a big performance, cement their place? We're hoping that South Africa A bring their A game, bring their physicality. But when you look at that squad, is there anyone that's nailed on? Are there any combinations that you think are nailed on? And who do you think needs to have a big game if it is their last opportunity before the test matches?
Yeah, well, we mentioned earlier on, Jim, I think, the combinations, 9 and 10 there, 4 and 5, Toji Henderson. I think Tolope Falatau needs to have a big game. I haven't been overly impressed with his performances, but as I've said many times, he does turn it on the big occasions. I think front row, Wyn Jones, Ken Owens and Kyle Sinclair. I think I would be going with Rory Sutherland and Jimmy George and Tag Furlong with my starting pest 1 to 3. But this is another opportunity that they have been given. Hopefully the competition that they'll be playing against in South Africa will be a little bit better, be a bit more physical. There might be a bit more scrummaging, defending a few more line-out mauls, have less possession, like the 65% possession against the Sharks there on Saturday. So, yeah, I just want another good team effort. I'm sure a few of the boys are starting to feel a little bit fatigued and will need that week's rest before their next game. But I don't think any of the Lions fans will be happy with a 1-point win. I think it'll need to be another 20, 30-point win to try and keep this huge positivity going about the performances. And we'll take it from there. But Jim, if you text me tomorrow morning to say the game is off because of more COVID cases, I wouldn't be surprised. But it's just all about getting these fixtures played, getting these guys more game time, and hopefully they can keep this momentum going.
Well, Nico Wellman has confirmed from the ground in South Africa that the South African state or the government or the South African Rugby Union have confirmed the game is definitely going ahead. So let's watch this space. We'll try and stay positive, especially after it not coming home. And let's hope the Lions aren't coming home and they stay in South Africa. Stevie, from myself and you, I will thank the millions that have watched this. It is Fan Zone Lions edition. If you liked it, then give us a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give us a thumbs up. But all the stuff, all the news will be across our RugbyPass platforms, our social platforms. We'll try and keep you engaged. We'll try and keep you entertained. Keep the comments coming in even after this live show goes and lives on our YouTube and Facebook. We appreciate your support, everyone. Let's stay positive. Let's hope we see a big game on Wednesday from the British and Irish Lions against a good South Africa A team. We will be there in spirit. We'll be watching it, Stevie, and we'll be back later in the week for RugbyPass Fan Zone Live, Lions edition.